Just imagine a world in which you were given perpetual rights to administer your family home, where you've lived for just about 30 years, which you have maintained, on which you have paid property taxes and made major improvements such as upgrading decaying plaster walls and ceilings, removing carpets and refinishing hardwood floors, and upgrading landscape with tons of pine trees and more. And just having amazing adventures such as having films made in your home. Oh heavens to Betsy, having had the tremendous privilege of watching family and friends happily grow up in your home. Just to have a developer manhandle their way into your world with physical assaults and violence. When we appealed to the courts, we were told that exploration of our case would take about 3 years and legal fees would amount to $100,000. Folks, imagine our surprise when only 5 months and a whopping and crippling $50,000 later in legal fees. Never once being sworn in to offer evidence to plead our case, we're told that in order to move on with our lives, we have to perpetuate the falsehoods, the blatant lies that are being put forth by the developer. The developer states that we should leave the home as they call us mere tenants, occupying a portion of the house. My sister Grace and I have enjoyed our home to its fullest and in its entirety, as you have observed in all the images I have just shared. Here's little one all grown up, a college student, celebrating her younger sister's birthday on New Year's Eve during COVID, in a space developers say we don't occupy, along with her younger twin brothers and her mom, who also grew up in the home, having moved here as a young teen. Can you imagine? I mean, really? Mere tenants who have paid to heat the entire house, for example, from 1998 to this very day. Oh, we are left with questions. How? Why? What do you think? We have a lot of lingering questions about the integrity of the developers and about their unjust enrichment. Developers seem to be getting the upper hand all over the city. They want to demolish my mother's legacy, this amazing house that gave birth to the historic Hollis Queens. There is no other like it in the area, and it was the final home of the original Gibson girl.
One of America's most popular female images, who graced the pages of every leading national magazine. She mirrored and influenced popular culture, just as tabloids and television do today.
Speaking of wiping out important legacies, just imagine that someone moved into your family home and left you with questions about the unusually early deaths of your mother and sister, who lived in that home since 1964 until the time of their recent deaths.
The NYPD and Queens District Attorney's Office say they're still investigating, but the family says the agencies aren't doing enough.
How about a plan created in consultation with wealthy developers to fulfill their needs with no involvement of the general public? To fill in spaces in neighborhoods with buildings, to make each area more dense in population, regardless of the community's needs. Will building more luxury buildings create affordable housing? So far, as I've seen, they haven't, but one never knows, do one?
While many speakers agreed that housing must be made more affordable, they disagreed on whether City of Yes is the answer.
Benefits for the wealthy do not trickle down to everyone else in the unregulated housing market. For the same reason, the gourmet food store does not solve hunger.
It's all real. No imagination needed. This is my story, the story of historic Hollis, Queens, and the city of New York. I say historic because you might be surprised to find out just how many outstanding citizens have called Hollis home. Hollis folks, I hope this will be a source of pride. So stay a while with me as I explore the tremendous history of beautiful residential Hollis and the threat to its existence by developers and the city of Yes. Hello, and welcome back to Marie at the Ketcham house. That's me, Marie, and two of the most adorable four-legged companions you could ever come across, Princess and Miko. See that little cutie there? That's Miko. We used to hang out at Flushing Meadow Park a lot, where they hold the US Open tennis tournament and they have baseball games and a whole lot of other things. Look at Miko.
Mick. I know. You think he's big?
He thought he could run with the big guys and had the most memorable personality ever. Princess was as sweet as her name suggests. They were amazing companions. We had some fantastic times together and some situations where we barely escaped with our lives. But we had more happy times that I always relish and remember. Thank goodness for the fact my camera was always at the ready.
Oh, Miko, that's what I'm afraid of. God. Mick! Hey! Mick? You gonna come back?
Well, here we are, back at my favorite spot. Fate and my beautiful mother brought me to this outstanding home where I've lived for years, and it has given me a grand opportunity to learn so much about a special place in New York called Hollis. Yes, Hollis. This is one of my favorite places on the property, a swing that my late sister-in-law Lynette thought would be perfect for this huge, old, shady tree. It's been a great spot to relax after a long day. So come, sit with me as I tell you more about this special place and some really cool but almost forgotten stories about Hollis and its special residents. True historical treasures that have been cloaked by time. Sometimes one of these historic treasures would be hidden away, a home to be shared by family and friends.
As a child, I have so many fond memories of that home.
The Ketcham house is at the heart of the history of Hollis. Tucked away in Southeastern Queens, Hollis is one of New York City's oldest suburban communities. The Ketcham house, in situ long before the construction of the railroad depot that inspired the real estate boom in the early 1900s, overseeing its original owner's farmland, that would eventually be transformed into much sought after Hollis Terrace. This landmark home has been affectionately known in the area as the Castle, and for some, just the haunted house. But it has definitely been an integral part of life in the community. Just point out this special house and the old-timers in the neighborhood will quickly volunteer. A movie star once lived there. Records indicate that the original Gibson girl and living picture star May Callahan, born Mary Veronica Callahan, and her husband, Frederick Flores, lived at the Ketcham house as early as 1924, and she as late as 1953 when she passed away in the home. May Callahan stopped modeling full-time when Charles Gibson married his wife, who became the second Gibson girl. In 1900, she became the chief instructor at Bernarr MacFadden's Physical Culture School in Ronkonkoma, New York. Bernarr MacFadden, often dubbed the father of physical culture, spread the gospel of physical fitness. He owned hotels, restaurants, and health spas, which he called healthatoriums. He fostered the emergence of the greatest icon of bodybuilding, Charles Atlas, and worked with notable figures such as Winston Churchill, Eleanor Roosevelt, Mahatma Gandhi, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Bernarr authored over 100 books on a variety of topics with a combined readership of 7.3 million in 1 year. He also created a popular magazine empire, which included publications such as True Romance and Sport, the precursor to Sports Illustrated.
By the time Mary Callahan arrived at the Ketcham house, her husband Frederick Flores had also had a change in career from model to successful builder. Along with his younger brother, Charles, he built a success upon the many beautiful homes constructed in elite communities throughout Long Island. In fact, one such home added to the scenic view from his own bedroom window.
In the heart of the neighborhood, this impressive home stands, its walls weathered yet strong, like an ancient oak tree bearing witness to decades of change. From the laughter of children playing in the yard, to the quiet evenings spent watching the stars. As the scenery changes and families come and go, this old house remains a steadfast guardian of the past.
TV audience of the Macy Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Historic Hollis has a fabulous forgotten history of its own.
You can see Ideal has quite a lineup. Remember, because children will know about Ideal toys, children will want Ideal toys.
The Ideal Toy Factory boosted the economy of Hollis by employing thousands of housewives. Many long-time residents of the area can recall the impact the Ideal Toy Company had on their childhood. The children had the bonus of access to extra toys because the big toy factory was in their neighborhood. Did you know that Betsy Wetsy and the Rubik's Cube were two of many famous toys manufactured right here in Hollis?
Jet fighter. You work the throttle, indicators, radar scope, and warning light. You control 6 moving targets via 4 rocket guns. Buy Ideal's fighter jet wherever good toys are sold.
It's wonderful. It's Ideal.
The Ideal Toy Factory, said to have been one of the largest toy manufacturers in the world in the 1950s, was housed in the Edward Langer Printing Company building, which was constructed on Commercial Jamaica Avenue in Hollis in 1923. And it too bore witness to the changes. For example, here we see what was said to be one of the enduring scenes of old Hollis before the coming of the sewer system: flooding in front of the building. During heavy rain, water would pour down the street and accumulate on Jamaica Avenue. The Toy Factory building has been repurposed and renovated in the last decade, and today it has a novel use that supports the entire city of New York straight from the heart of Hollis.
Farming with the future in mind. We built the nation's first commercial-scale rooftop greenhouse in the heart of New York City with the mission of creating a local urban farming company that offered city dwellers fresh, high-quality produce all year round.
Each creak of the floorboards and whisper of the wind carries echoes of all those who have called this place home.
I want to tell you, if I hadn't told
Before the coming of the railroad, Hollis was said to have consisted of a hotel, a grocery store, and a dozen farms. Then came the commuters and the development boom, sparked by the railroad depot at Hollis Terrace.
The newspapers announced, among the recent purchases of land at Hollis Terrace are a number of well-known stars of the theatre. Properties valued in the aggregate of $100,000 have been purchased there by Marie Dressler, Joe Page Smith, Grace Cameron, Dan Hennessy, the Three Drummonds, Horace Golden, Blanche Werner, Peter Armstrong, Mattie Levy, Rice and Prevost, Gertrude Rich, and many more.
What am I going to do? I've just got to get this money. What am I here? Wait a minute. There we are. No, sir, we're not. Oh, my goodness sakes alive, what am I going to do? I've got to get this train and the whole family waiting for me. I knew it wouldn't. There, that's it. Now I got it. Now, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now, give me them tickets. The next time I travel, I'll put a stamp on me and I'll travel by mail.
Hollis attracted many outstanding citizens whose accomplishments, quite sadly, have been obscured by time. If you have viewed this far, I thank you. And I thank you for staying tuned as a few such remarkable residents are revealed. There was Lionel H. Leadham and his wife Agnes, who lived at the A. Oakley Ketcham house and patented an adjustable shoe tree. The Leadhams were very active residents in the community before they sold their home to another outstanding citizen of the time, Dr. Robert Newhall Smith and family, to relocate to Paonian Springs, Virginia. According to newspaper accounts, the family maintained an attachment to their hometown and returned frequently to Hollis for visits. This was especially true of their daughter Audrey, who had attended PS 35 Nathaniel Woodhull School in 1909. Newcomers nicknamed the commuters to build a new modern school in 1895, and they won. PS 35 was constructed. Across the street, there was Herbert W. Schmidt, who was the landscape architect who supervised the landscaping for the 1933 Chicago World's Fair, reportedly performing nothing short of a miracle for managing to transform a beach into more than 350 acres of meticulous gardens.
The newspaper proclaimed, Hollis man is landscaping Chicago World's Fair site. When the Chicago World's Fair, depicting a century of progress, opens on June 1st, visitors will view, among other marvels, some 350 acres of sandy waste, which has been transformed into the world's most beautiful landscape garden under the supervision of a son of Long Island.
By 1935, Schmidt was appointed to a national post in Washington, D.C. as senior architect for the Housing Division of the Public Works Administration.
Created in 1935 by President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Improve employment and build infrastructure during the Great Depression. It had huge effects on the lives of people in the American Midwest, effects we can still feel today.
The country had already suffered through 3 years of the Great Depression. The economy was destroyed. 1 in 4 Americans was out of work, and most everyone had lost hope. The Public Works Administration, the PWA, put thousands of Americans to work on various construction projects around the country, and they ended up building some of the most recognizable landmarks in the United States. The federal government earmarked about $3.3 billion in funding to hire out-of-work Americans to strengthen the nation's infrastructure, to build roads, schools, airports, post offices, government buildings.
Another son of Hollis was Pulitzer-winning newspaper humorist Art Buchwald, whose life was gravely influenced by the effects of the Great Depression. Buchwald never met his mother, who was lost to him from the time of his birth, and by the time he was 5 and his father lost his business in the Great Depression, he and his sisters were shuffled from one foster home to another in Hollis, Queens. In spite of the difficulties, Buchwald made good on his childhood dreams. His accomplishments were described by television host James Day in 1974.
Art Buchwald is one of the funniest men writing in American newspapers today. His 3 times a week column, syndicated to more than 300 newspapers here and abroad, is a gentle blend of whimsy and satire, a mirror image of America, slightly distorted, that reveals much about us, perhaps too much, but does it in a manner that eases the pain of recognition with laughter. He established himself in Washington, from where he has continued to observe with his singular viewpoint the fantasy land of politics. In addition to a dozen books which have been compiled...
Buchwald, who moved in elite circles, was very well known and was celebrated as one of the most accomplished newspaper columnists in U.S. history. In 1974, he discussed his childhood with day and night host James Day.
I was a foster child. I was raised in a series of foster homes.
Your mother died when you were quite young,
I was born, and I was put in a series of homes, and at a very early age, you go into fantasy when things aren't going the way you want to. And I guess my fantasy was that I was going to be the person I am today, and I was going to show everybody.
I suppose.
You don't feel fully accepted, you don't belong, you're in sort of a no man's land. You build up a certain anger and hostility, but a few people can turn this into humor, which I did. I could make people laugh. Now, I found out in public school I could make the other kids laugh, and I could do it at the expense of the teacher and the principal, which was authority.
In a letter to the editor that appeared in the Where Are They Now section of the Saturday Evening Post on June 1st, 1971, famous humor columnist Art Buchwald recalls his rough start as a postboy in Hollis.
Dear editor, I was once a Saturday Evening Post boy. I sold the magazines at the Hollis Railroad Station in Hollis, New York. Unfortunately, there was a kid named Maury who also used to sell the Saturday Evening Post there. He was a head taller than me and weighed 50 pounds more. He didn't like my selling the Post on his turf, so he used to burn my arm with cigarettes. I moved across the street from the station, but Maury didn't even like this. He used to yell, "You dirty blank blank, I'll kill you if you sell a magazine." But the people used to like me, and many of them walked right past Maury and bought the Post from me. After everyone left the station, I ran like a gazelle, my Saturday Evening Post bag waving in the air. I think during one of these dashes, I decided that when I grew up, I'd get out of sales and on the editorial side of the magazine. Cheers.
The New York Times asked people how they wanted to be remembered and recorded their thoughts.
I'm Art Buchwald and I just died. We're giving them, and you, the last word.
Art Buchwald wanted to announce his own death.
He was simply a wonderfully funny guy. Funny without being mean-spirited, without being vicious, without being hateful. Just funny. He talked funny, he wrote funny, he lived funny, and damned if he didn't figure out a way to die funny. The nation has lost a great treasure, and so has the prestigious, but much diminished, American Academy of Humor Columnists. Thank you.
By the 1940s, when many performers opted to find homes outside of the city lights of Manhattan, many jazz musicians chose to settle in the Hollis area. Phil Shop, a renowned authority on jazz, was born in 1951 in what he called the jazz bedroom community of Hollis. He told the New York Times in 1998, "The entire jazz community had moved into my neighborhood. As a child, Roy Eldridge was his friend, and so was Lenny Tristano, Milt Hilton, and Lester Young, among others. Count Basie's drummer, Papa Joe Jones, was actually his babysitter." Phil had an astounding memory loaded with information shared by legions of jazz musicians.
I haven't had a real life the way some of you have, and I acknowledge that. But jazz has provided me my religion. Jazz musicians are my family. So the first lesson is the one Duke Ellington taught us. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. And when jazz first started, that's all it had.
Like Leadham's daughter Audrey, Art Buchwald, and many Hollis residents, Phil Sharp attended PS 35, a hallmark in the lives of Hollis kids growing up in the 50s and 60s, when the primary ethnic makeup of the community was people of European descent. True lifelong bonds were forged in the neighborhood, in popular hangouts like Tiedeman's Ice Cream Parlor, the cinema, a bar and grill, Julianne's, the candy shop, or in someone's basement. Here's a shot of Mario Cuomo, former governor of the Empire State of New York, hanging out in the basement with friends in Hollis. His parents bought the family home in Hollis in 1949. Cuomo would return to live with his wife and children in the family house in the 1960s, as his own house was being built on Pompey Avenue in Hollis. As the family branched out, the Pompey Avenue house was sold in 1988, and Mario Cuomo did not sell his parents' home until 1995. Hollis was home to the Cuomos until Mario Cuomo won his bid for governorship.
We won because people and the passion of belief are still more important than money.
Victory marked the ascent of a son of Italian immigrants who became a successful lawyer and then politician.
The difference between Democrats and Republicans has always been measured in courage and confidence. The Republicans believe that the wagon train will not make it to the frontier unless some of the old, some of the young, some of the weak are left behind by the side of the trail. We Democrats believe in something else. We Democrats believe that we can make it all the way with the whole family intact, and we have more than once.
Born in Queens in 1932 to Italian immigrants, Mario Cuomo was one of the most prominent figures in the Democratic Party.
It's time for change. It's time for someone smart enough to know, strong enough to do, sure enough to lead, the comeback kid, a new voice for a new America. Because I love New York, because I love America, I nominate for the office of the President of the United States, the man from Hope, Arkansas, Governor Bill Clinton.
All told, Cuomo served 3 terms as governor.
He first served as Lieutenant Governor and Secretary of State, and then was elected to 3 terms as Governor of New York from 1983 to 1994. He was a socially progressive leader and a powerful speaker who believed in the power of government to improve people's lives. Mario Cuomo's children would also go on to make their mark on the history of Hollis. In the family, there's a lawyer and former governor of New York, a prominent physician, an anchorman, auspicious marriages including to the Kennedys and to designer Kenneth Cole, enough to make a father proud. Very proud of his heritage, Mario Cuomo would often make reference to how his mother had arrived from Tramonti, Italy, and how he was a Queens man whose father's very special dream had been to have a house with a yard and a tree to call our own. With hard work, that dream paid off, as it has and will continue to do for other immigrants right here in beautiful Hollis.
I love the law. I didn't love politics. As a matter of fact, I hate politics. I loved governing, which is, I hope, a different thing.
Public school kid, no military academy. Couldn't even have dreamed of going to West Point.
And the dream of achieving a better future in Hollis was also fulfilled by the Jamaican parents of statesman General Colin Powell
earned international renown for his storied career as a statesman.
General Colin Powell, a prominent figure in U.S. military and political history, was born in Harlem, New York, to Jamaican immigrant parents and later lived in the Hollis neighborhood of Queens. He went on to become the first African American to serve as both Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and as Secretary of State.
I learned that a good public school education could carry you far. That's why I'm so committed to public school education now.
He was a proud graduate of City College of New York, and Powell gave back, including through the Colin Powell School for Civic and Global Leadership.
When you were growing up in the South Bronx, your parents are immigrants from Jamaica. Did you ever expect to live a life of the type that you've led?
In those days, we're talking about the late 40s, early 50s, it was beyond any possible level of aspiration that I might have had. And most of the major military schools that were in the South would not have allowed a black person to go to those schools. But it happened, and it happened because, one, I had a family that kept me in play, a family that said, keep going, keep going. I was not a great student, but they still believed in me.
100 years ago, a young immigrant left a dirt farm in Jamaica and set out for America. 3 years later, a ship pulled into New York Harbor, and a young Jamaican woman gazed up at the Statue of Liberty for the first time. They became my parents, and they inspired me to finish college and join the Army. This began a journey of service that would take me from basic training to combat in Vietnam, up the ranks to serve as chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Secretary of State. Values I learned growing up in the South Bronx.
Kelly Street had on it every type of person you can imagine. There were Jamaicans, there were African Americans, there were Puerto Ricanos, there were Jewish, there were everything you can think of. We were all there.
The city shaped who he'd become as a soldier and diplomat.
So almost everything you can imagine in terms of a different nationality or a different people was on Kelly Street. It meant so much to me as I grew up and learned the importance of diversity.
Perhaps Luther and Maud Ariel Powell had lofty wishes for their son when he was born in 1937 in Harlem, New York. They had come to America seeking a better life. In the 1940s, Colin Powell and his family enjoyed leaving their rented apartment in the Bronx to visit his uncle and aunt's house in Jamaica, Queens. By then, the family's dream was to move on up by owning a house of their own in the suburbs. Powell remembers watching his father, a shipping clerk who first came to America on a banana boat, toil to become something more than he had been and to give his children a better start than he had known. His father dreamt about winning big in the numbers racket.
Don't you take the nickels and dimes and pennies from people who bet just like every other crook, big or little, in this racket? They call this racket policy because people bet their nickels on numbers instead of paying their weekly insurance premium. That's why policy. That's what it is, and that's what it's called.
And while Powell was a student at City College in the mid-1950s, he finally hit it big and won 10,000 smackaroos, 10,000, which is worth about $140,000 today. Yep. That was big money, and he was finally able to make one of his biggest dreams come true. 183-68 Elmira Avenue in Hollis. In his memoirs, Colin Powell wrote,
"Our new home was ivy covered, well kept and comfortable, and had a family room and a bar in a finished basement. Pop was now a property holder, eager to mow his postage stamp lawn and prune his fruit trees. My father had joined the gentry. The neighborhood looked beautiful to us, and the Hollis address carried a certain cachet, a cut above Jamaica, Queens, and just below St. Albans. Another Gold Coast for middle-class blocks."
For Colin, life was very different than it was in the Bronx.
The house was a 3-bedroom bungalow in a neighborhood in transition. The whites were moving out and the blacks moving in. My folks bought from a Jewish family named Weiner, one of the few white families left.
Colin Powell's memoir, My American Journey. Colin Powell is the embodiment of the American dream. He was born in Harlem to immigrant parents from Jamaica. He overcame a barely average start at school. Then he joined the Army. The rest is history. Here, Colin Powell himself tells us how it happened in a memoir distinguished by a heartfelt love of country and family, warm, good humor, and a soldier's directness.
This outstanding home continues to stand proudly, protectively, and ever vigilant as white flight beckoned to change in the complexion of the community. Hollis became the place to be for up-and-coming families from all walks of life.
You told me back in the green room, who would be on the street in Hollis? Who did you see growing up in Hollis? You told me.
Oh, Stephen A. Smith is from Hollis, Queens, 2 blocks from me. I live on 205 Street.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen A. Smith lives on 203rd Street. He walks down the block. What up, Joey? You don't think nothing. He's not screaming. He's not like, one game? One game? You mean to tell me the block can't win one game? He's not that. He's just, what up, Joey? You see this tall guy walking down the block.
Yeah.
Also, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar lived up the block from me when he was going to Powell High School on 205th Street.
So he was Lou Alcindor then.
Lou
right?
Alcindor for sure.
Yeah.
Right on my corner though.
Both parents that cared about me and nurtured and supported me. And
perhaps the most accomplished player in NBA history, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar won a record 6 league MVP awards and 6 NBA titles, owner of one of the game's most unstoppable offensive weapons, the skyhook.
Kareem's parents, the Alcindors, moved to Hollis just as his basketball career was taking off. Amazingly, his father, who was a musician, was present at John F. Kennedy's birthday when Marilyn Monroe sang "Happy Birthday, Mr. President."
Mr. President, for all the things you've done, we thank you so much. Everybody, happy birthday!
Lou Alcindor Sr., Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's father, was a musician who was present performing as a member of the orchestra when Marilyn Monroe sang birthday greetings to John F. Kennedy at Madison Square Garden in 1962.
Having had happy birthday sung to me in such a sweet...
Put your arms around your child.
This warm mother figure, singing here, is none other than Hollis's own Theresa Merritt.
You know I love you now.
Theresa Merritt Hines was the matriarch of the Hines family, a family that has grown up in Hollis and has deep roots here.
But one day I'll look around, and you will be grown.
You might have also recognized Diana Ross. This is in fact a clip from The Wiz, starring Michael Jackson amongst other greats. And if you were around in the 70s, or a fan of those times, you probably recognize Theresa Merritt from That's My Mama. When That's My Mama premiered on TV in 1974, many viewers found it easy to relate to the main characters, especially to Eloise Mama Curtis, Theresa Merritt's character, who was mother to Clifton Davis and younger daughter played initially by Lynn Moody.
Anyone who wants it is not very good.
Her character's love, wisdom, and warmth made many feel as though she was part of their family. So much so that even veteran actress Theresa Merritt began to experience some sort of identity crisis.
Even people 20 years older than me call me mama and hug me. I'm grateful for all the love I'm receiving.
That's my mama, mama herself, Theresa Merritt, and her husband, Mr. Benjamin.
But I'm beginning to wonder if Theresa Merritt still exists.
They look a little puzzled. Theresa, what will Ben say? Who is the most beautiful woman that he ever met?
I'm going to say Lynn Moody.
Lynn Moody?
Yeah.
Okay, Lynn Moody.
Yeah.
All right. Should we know who Lynn Moody is?
Yes, it's...
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to pry, Theresa. It's normal.
Some of me know very well.
Okay.
But as I said, here lately, I haven't heard him speak about older women. I'm just hearing him speak about younger girls.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means. We've been married 30 years.
Let's bring him on. Here he comes. Ben, other than your wife, of course, who is the most beautiful woman that you ever met?
I guess I'd answer my wife's late aunt. She was a beautiful person. She was mother and sister and confessor and everything to my wife, and I think she was a beautiful person.
Oh.
Benny!
You want to tell him who you said? Tell him who you
I said Lynn Moody, because you've been looking at the younger girls lately.
I have?
Yeah.
Such an endearing response from Benjamin Hines. It was reported that Theresa Merritt's character, Mama Curtis, was based on a real person that she held in high esteem and loved. Her great aunt, Gertrude Ruth Thomas, who raised her since she was a child, her mother having passed away when she was only 4. Merritt played the role of Mama so well, she had viewers at home saying, "That's my mama."
I thought about marriage, and it was my thought that I would stop thinking about marriage.
An actress who is no newcomer to the world of show business. She's had a hit television series. She has sung with Harry Belafonte and Jackie Wilson in 1975. That's My Mama. And before we went on the air, you made the comment that, it was nothing to do with race. It was nothing to do with
transcended
color.
race.
It was just people.
People.
Is Broadway going to reach that point?
I hope so.
So do I.
So. I hope the world comes to that point.
Yeah.
That's what we should be fighting for. I think that if we ever come to that point in life, we won't have so many wars.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Because we're just going to destroy each other.
Yeah.
We won't have a world.
To demonstrate concerns about the state of the world, Merritt did not shy away from social activism. when there was a rally against desegregation of Boston public schools in South Boston in 1975. Theresa Merritt joined the NAACP's rally and march in support of desegregation.
All right, now, you've played a variety of roles, and a lot of them have been, pretty benign comedy. I would say That's My Mama would fall into that category, but now Ma Rainey's Black Bottom is a saucier vehicle than you've been accustomed to starring in.
A strong, saucy lady who knows what she wants.
Yeah.
And I like that because I played the soft ladies, the mamas, the kind of mamas that is supposed to be acceptable throughout the world.
Sure.
The way mamas are supposed to be. And this is a mama who knows what she wants, those actors. And she's a good mama. She's for right, just like the so-called acceptable mama is. And she's strong. She leads a band of men around the country. She has a troupe.
Theresa Merritt plays Ma Rainey, who did record in the 20s the Queen of the Blues, but this is not biography. Theresa Merritt can belt the blues, and the guys in the band really do play. I don't know how they cast this, but this is not a musical. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, a first play by talented August Wilson, uses the place and the time and the musicians' easygoing camaraderie and undeniable artistry to chart Black America's search for success and identity. As a play, Ma Rainey has flaws, but well-directed, very well acted, the music is good, and it works brilliantly. As theater, this is fireworks.
Though best known for her on-screen and theater performances, particularly That's My Mama and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, for which she actually received a Tony nomination, Theresa Merritt was a great fan of contralto Marian Anderson, who was considered to be the greatest operatic singer of all time.
Before Lincoln Memorial to hear Marian Anderson, colored contralto, make her capital debut at the Great Emancipator Shrine. Here to listen to the voice acclaimed by many as the finest in a century.
And she actually started life out as a classical singer, receiving her training at Temple and New York universities. Ms. Merritt even continued to study voice after she had her 4 children and had made her classical concert debut in 1961 at Town Hall in New York. Merritt, the Ham, as her husband once jokingly referred to her, started performing early, appearing as a teen on the Parisian Taylor's Colored Kitty Hour in Philadelphia. She was studying voice in Philly when she was selected at age 21 to perform in Carmen Jones on Broadway. Drama came next, and so did television and film performances. A prolific performer, Theresa Merritt had a long string of credits to her name. And a half-a-century-long career in the performing arts.
Now you ask him. Brandy, that's your daddy's dream. James will sleep.
A young Dennis Hines would follow in his mother's footsteps and take up acting, performing with Sidney Poitier and other stars. Miss Merritt was very involved in her community, often performing concerts with the local church, and even today, she's remembered with great warmth as a consummate caregiver and a tremendous asset to her community. The Hines family resided on 110th Road in Hollis for many years and developed lifelong bonds. Theresa and Benjamin's marriage lasted for 52 years till death did it part, but they are reunited at Maple Grove Cemetery in Kew Gardens, Queens, where history comes alive. And friends are dedicated to celebrating the tremendous history and accomplishments of individuals interred there.
Through the seasons and transformations, the house stands firm, a symbol of resilience and continuity amid change.
When the Munros, a Jamaican family, started their journey at the Ketcham house, they found themselves confronted by unfamiliar racial divides in 1970s Hollis. Mr. Monroe noted that as a result of bus drivers repeatedly passing them by, the new immigrants gradually started their own system of transportation, the precursor to the dollar cab. The Monroes were very community-minded. They offered pottery classes, were well acquainted with their neighbors, and were happy to share the bounties of their home.
We had campouts in the back with little, they would let us do a little tent. Oh, that was my childhood in that house, growing up in that house there.
Let's take a walk down memory lane with Nikki, whose family has lived in the Ketcham house since the 1990s.
There's a little child in all of us. And this time of the year, I get a little sick now. When I think about some of the precious memories I had as a child. And I'd like to share a few of those moments with you right now.
Do a parade, and we would put garlands around our necks and pretty much dress ourselves up like human Christmas presents, and have a parade from one side of the house to the other, just banging on pots and listening to music and having a good old time before we all started handing out presents. And we also used to do one big gift, so that was really cool. It was always exciting to see who was going to get the big gift that year. And the big gift could be just anything that somebody really wanted or that was at the top of the Christmas list. So that was always fun. We played football in the front or basketball in the backyard when the basketball hoop was up. Everybody used to go in the pool when the pool was up. We had the swings, we had the trampoline, just anything that was kid-friendly that was there. We got to do the little parties we had in the basement, and Auntie Velma's wedding that we had at the house. All of those were really fun and gave great memories. The Voice of Jamaica Independence Day celebration that we did, that was a lot of fun, especially doing all the research and riding the trains into Manhattan to go to the consulate to get information was really fun. And my girls, the twins, got to experience some of the fun of the Hollis house when we got to visit in August. So they got to see kind of what we all used to do whenever we got together in New York. So always a great time.
We continue to have very special memories here in this one-of-a-kind residence. And Nikki's mother, my older sister Joy, is the reason we even had an opportunity to make our home here. Joy was the first to learn at church that the Monroes had put their home on the market. She immediately rang me up.
Marie,
you have to come and see this house. I'm telling you, it's something else. We could all live together. Mama could have her rose garden and the kids could really go crazy with all that space. Come now, let's go take a look.
And on that note, the two sisters rushed out to have first looks at the awe-inspiring property that Joy was certain would be the ideal place for the family to set down roots.
And when I saw this property, my jaw dropped. I was super excited too. Gracie and I had just bought our house the year before, but I was crossing fingers and saying a little prayer that Mama and Joy and family would make this their new home. I would be remiss if I didn't stick a pin and take a moment to tell you a little about my late sister Joy. Joy, the nickname that was given her that stuck, and she was truly my source of happiness, love, and joy. Anyone who ever crossed paths with Joy could happily tell you how family and community oriented this charismatic woman was. No cause was too small nor person too insignificant to become the beneficiary of her passion and unbounded care. Even when she herself suffered from the pangs of neediness, she wouldn't hesitate to take in the homeless, pitch in the community, in schools, youth groups, cultural societies, or champion some other person's cause. She was always at the center of the crowd, a true life of the party, and with characteristic exuberance, she always held family near and dear. She wished for nothing more than to stake roots in a place where her family could continue to care and share.
Más lejos de tus amigos, de tu tierra y de tu
For some of us, Christmas is the best time of the year. Yes, I'm one of those who gets started a little early and end a little late. But you have to admit, it's a great time to come together, and it's a really special feeling to welcome in those who are far away from home. To add to the Christmas cheer, we always put up colorful displays of Christmas lights at the Ketcham house.
Por eso y muchas cosas más. Ven a mi paz esta Navidad. Por eso y muchas cosas más. Ven a mi casa esta Navidad. Tú que recuerdas quizás a tu madre o al hijo que no está. Quiero que sepas que esta noche Él te acompañará. No vayas solo por esas calles queriendo te aturdir. Ven con nosotros y a nuestro lado intenta sonreír.
If action is not taken and developers have their way, this beautiful holiday tradition and the lights will be extinguished forever. These memorable lights at the Ketcham house have become a part of Christmas in Hollis. Christmas in Hollis. Go anywhere in the world and say Hollis, Queens, and hip-hop will reverberate right back at you. Even if people don't know where Hollis is, the funny and very recognizable instant classic Christmas in Hollis, a song that has shown up in a number of films, will definitely come to mind.
You ready to rock out, make it look? Y'all ready? It's Christmas time in Hollis, Queens. Mom's cooking chicken and collard greens. Rice and stuffing macaroni and cheese. And Santa put gifts under Christmas trees.
The Daily News proclaimed, the Bronx may be hip-hop's birthplace, but Hollis zoomed it to the commercial heavens. Hollis was the birthplace and home of influential figures like Russell Simmons, who co-founded Def Jam, the record label that was responsible for such groundbreaking acts as LL Cool J, Public Enemy, Beastie Boys, EPMD, Slick Rick, and perhaps the most influential act in hip-hop history, Run DMC. Run DMC, made up of Hollis natives, was the first hip-hop act to be prominently featured on MTV, on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine, and to appear on Saturday Night Live. Yes, indeed, Hollis is where hip-hop goes head to toe, or is that head to head, with middle-class dreams. And it is, as Russell Simmons said, everyone there has an upwardly mobile attitude. No matter how middle class it gets, though, there'll always be a street culture. Oh yeah, starting in the 80s, I think, and the 90s, people started to refer to Hollis as the hood. So true, especially when you consider 4 friends from Hollis who made their mark on the fashion world in a major way in 1992 when they launched FUBU, For Us, By Us, a sportswear brand inspired by hip-hop and street culture. FUBU's influence spread like wildfire across the country. Juvenile and Cash Money crew are seen here, decked out from head to toe in FUBU gear. Even R&B groups sported FUBU. Here's B2K wearing FUBU for a photo shoot. Celebrities supported FUBU big time. The question these days is, can Gen Z make FUBU cool again? Can what was old be renewed?
It is the 50th birthday of hip-hop, and you could make the case that the first real superstars of rap were Run DMC. Maurice Dubois caught up with DMC himself, Darryl McDaniels.
Before they were kings, Run DMC first connected right here in Hollis, Queens.
This is my house right here, yeah.
What's it like to see it?
It makes me forget I've done all the stuff that I've done in my life.
And DMC, Darryl McDaniels, has done a whole lot. Run DMC were the first rappers to have a gold album back in 1984. And they were the first rap act to appear on MTV.
Around the corner. Yeah, the alley is where on Adidas we say started in the alley. Now we chill in Cali. We won't trade Adidas for no beat up valleys.
This is the alley?
This is the alley. So this was like the hangout spot.
I'm sure the neighbors loved it, right?
Yeah,
they love having kids back
Some
here.
of them would pour water in, but we come right back.
What was it that was inspiring about this spot right here?
It was the neighborhood kids coming together. There was no social class. We all on the same level.
The great equalizer.
It was the equalizer, yes.
On our walk through Hollis, he was spotted by a young superfan.
I recognize you from that girl Layla.
Yes, that's me. What's your name?
Violet.
Violet, yes, I was on That Girl Lele. Did I spell it right? Violet. Wow.
Oh, man.
It never gets old.
Right. Talk about the culture here. Clothing, music,
the style,
movies.
Right.
It is so transformative. If you look at pre-hip-hop and if you look at the present day,
right,
it is night and day. And you're right here at ground zero.
Right.
Right?
To be able to express yourself and represent yourself in your community, there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. To the boys and girls that created the culture, I don't want people to respect me because I made it in show business. I want people to respect me because I was able to kick down, crash through walls, come through floors, bust through ceilings and knock down doors and leave the doors open for everybody else to follow.
The castle of DMC's youth, a grouping of two buildings, the Avon and Eaton Halls, holds a different set of memories for people who have lived in Hollis since the 50s and 60s, the waybacks as I'll call them, according to olden Hollis tradition. One way back, while fondly reflecting on the many good times had in Hollis, recalls delivering papers to the buildings as a boy and noticing the fancy awnings and the doorman on duty. Far from its use in the 1980s as a hangout for rappers, the Eaton and Avon Halls, constructed in 1929, were meant to be affordable luxury apartments in a residential area equipped with all the modern amenities available. Unusual for its time, though, it had a gabled roof, lily ponds, and an open fireplace in the lobby. Each apartment had concealed radiators, a gas refrigerator, and 3/4-inch oak floors. Just a hop and a skip away, the old Ketcham house has also stood strong and proud, overseeing the ever-changing landscape and peoples of Hollis. With its suburban feel and tree-lined streets, this quaint old town has been an amazing stepping stone for many generations.
We lucked out when we were sent to Hollis because it was a very comfortable middle-class community. The streets were safe, and even people with little money kept up their lawns and gardens. The Depression was all-consuming, and many of the most affluent homeowners were policemen, firemen, and civil servants because they all had safe jobs. People didn't bother to lock their doors. Yet times were tough for almost everybody.
And we are grateful that those who have gone before have left it with its familiar appeal and a rich and resilient history, going back to the native land settled by the Dutch and patriot Nathaniel Woodhull's capture by the British. In 1924, the community decided to put a monument at PS 35 at the spot where Nathaniel Woodhull took a stand and famously said, "God save us all," instead of the requested God Save the King. Here are some modern-day crusaders who once called Hollis home. The Guinier family moved to Hollis in 1956. Ewart Gladstone Guinier, a powerful and passionate orator, was the son of Jamaican immigrants. He was a lawyer, a progressive union organizer and labor leader, a representative for the community, a political candidate, and a professor. He served as chair on a committee of the Urban League and on other borough and local organizations, which reflected his constant and unequivocal commitment to community and the underrepresented. His wife Eugenia, of Jewish descent, has been described as a civil rights champion in her own right. She was a social activist who was director of Honolulu Labor Canteen, an alternative to the segregated USO in Hawaii, where she met Guinier. She married a black man when such a relationship was illegal in many states, and moved to Hollis to integrate a neighborhood of proud, working-class Irish and Italian families as the first family of color on the block. Turns out that within 6 years, she was reportedly the only white person still living in the neighborhood. Professionally, Eugenia was a speech therapist and a high school teacher of English. Friends once said she married a so-called race man. Ewart Guinier was a prominent trade unionist who served as International Secretary for the United Public Workers of America and was the first black candidate to be nominated by a political party, the American Labor Party, for the Manhattan Borough Presidency. Guinier was the founder and the first department head of Harvard University's Afro-American Studies Department in 1969. He was one of only 2 black students admitted to Harvard in 1929. Their daughter, Carol Lanny Guinier, was a legal scholar and political activist whose work on voting rights and affirmative action led President Bill Clinton to nominate her to be Assistant Attorney General in 1993. She was a fighter who made her name in the 1980s for not following conventional thinking about the legal system, recognizing that America's legal institutions needed to change further to realize true democracy. She was the first black woman to be tenured as a professor at Harvard Law School and is revered as a fighter for democracy.
The ability to see so far down the line was Lonnie Guinier's gift. A visionary legal scholar, pioneer of the controversial, and a champion for change, Lonnie Guinier was a towering presence in the fight for equal access. She was respectful and engaging, but then also solid and principled.
And there are those who followed in Lonnie Guinier's footsteps, such as Jeannie Suk Gerson, considered one of the top lawyers in the United States, who also grew up in Hollis and still has family here today. A student and assistant to Lonnie Guinier, she was the first Asian American woman to be tenured as a professor at Harvard. I noticed a post on Facebook where someone asked if Run DMC is Hollis's most famous residence. Oh dear. If only they knew. Just a simple walk within a 5-block radius of the Ketcham house. At almost every step, there is someone who has contributed in a very substantial way to our world at large. Their names may not stand out in everyone's minds, and memories fade as the years go by, but their individual achievements will always be standout and will always be stellar. Right around the corner on 100th Avenue, a block or so away, is Royal Ivy's family home. Royal Ivey is a professional basketball coach whose coaching skills got even international superstar and iconic basketball player LeBron James talking.
Worldwide, I think South Sudan is very well coached. Obviously, Royal Ivey over there has been around the game, been around the NBA for quite a long time. So he knows the game. Obviously, Lil Daniels over there as well, so he knows the game. So, to have that representation and have that type of leadership over there, teaching them the right way how to play the game, it definitely it's good. It's great, actually.
He was also a winning NBA player.
This had to be a fun one to be a part of this evening.
Definitely. Winning is always fun, and we came out with the win, and I'm just elated.
Especially in that fourth quarter, a really big three-pointer from you, and even a tipped rebound that was also, as Brooks would say, winning basketball play.
Royale never forgets where he came from and gives back to the community in spades.
My name is Royale Ivey. I'm from Hollis, Queens. Mom cooking chicken and collard greens.
He hosts an annual basketball and life skill clinic in Hollis, which is always gratefully received by the community.
I think this is the best year we had. You know, had a couple guest speakers. Nick Collison came out and spoke. One of my dear friends, Rashard Bell, spoke. You know, just everybody came through and showed me love this year, and the support was wonderful from the community. You know, the kids had a ball, and we just got to keep it going. We just got to keep it going and keep it building. Thanks to Game Over, E. Hicks, Ted Augustus, you know, my parents, the man above. You know, like I said, it's a blessing, and I take nothing for granted. I look like it's an obligation for me to give back to my community. I've been blessed to play in a league. Basketball has done wonderful things for me, so why not give back? It's a privilege for me to do stuff like this.
We thought it'd be a great idea, Royal, to welcome you from Hollis all the way to OKC. You took us from to the championships, got us right there, and then you came back here to the hood. So what we thought we would like to do is present you with our version of a mural for you, and it was designed by my man, Art One. And this is what we want to give to you, to bring your dreams. Our gift to you.
You know, the artwork, the details, and just when he opened up the canvas, I just got caught up in the moment. My emotions got the best of me. It's going to be bigger and better every year. Keep it going.
On Hollis Avenue, just a few houses from the A. Oakley Ketcham house, is the home of Yves Louis Auguste, who was a Haitian historian, diplomat, and professor. Mr. Auguste served as ambassador from Haiti to Spain and also to the U.S. He was appointed permanent representative to the UN in the 1980s, where he served as vice chair on the Special Committee Against Apartheid. Of international renown for his writings on U.S.-Haitian relationship, Ambassador Auguste was also appointed as Minister of the Interior, Police, and Civil Service in the cabinet of Leslie Francois Manigat, the first elected president of Haiti after the departure of the Duvaliers. A little further across the street on the next block was the last residence of outstanding jazz musician and teacher Jaki Byard and his family. John Arthur, known as Jaki Byard, was a jazz musician, a renowned jazz piano historian, a composer, and instructor who was considered to be perhaps the most versatile pianist in jazz because of his eclectic style. He would mix genres going from ragtime, honky-tonk, and stride to R&B and free jazz. An excellent tenor saxophonist, he also played alto sax, the trombone, and several other instruments. He toured all over the world with various orchestras, recorded music, lectured at Harvard, and taught at the Hart School of Music, the New England Conservatory, the Manhattan School of Music, and the New School of Jazz and Contemporary Music in New York.
Frederick Douglass. That's what I call it. He used to have this beautiful hair. You know. But I moved to New York to study with him. I was like, I want that. For 4 years, I studied with him at Manhattan School of Music, and he taught me the scope of the piano.
I would like to play for you. Composition is dear to my heart. It has to do with my family. My mother, my mother-in-law, the youngest addition to our family, my grandson.
Even with his level of mastery and the admiration he received from fellow performers, students, academia, and the public, Jaki Byard never achieved commercial success.
It would be certainly ideal if this society were such that an artist of Jaki's stature would be given, some rewards, and recognized more than he is. But I think he has gotten some. He's on the faculty, isn't he, in New England? And that's a nice bit of recognition.
If you listen to my album,
a family man at heart, he preferred to go with the flow. He lived on Hollis Avenue near the Gladys Warren Triangle with his wife and 3 children until his life was cut short in his home. A few blocks further on was the family home of a man who has been described as the greatest drummer of all times, Roy
The
Hines.
Lifetime Achievement Award, a Grammy for his 6-decade career as one of the preeminent drummers in jazz. Please welcome, along with the Fountain of Youth band, Roy Hines.
And his family of jazz musicians who have lived in Hollis for generations, as is the case of Adelaide Sanford, a standout educator and social activist who celebrated her 99th birthday last year.
When I became a regent and I realized the scope of impact that other groups had on the Board of Regents in terms of making policy, local policy, state policy, and federal policy, and we had no voice there. The Board for the Education of People of African Ancestry, I founded the board, and that board was founded based on the lack of impact that we had on children who were underserved. In terms of honors and awards, the world has none to offer me that have any meaning unless they elevate our people.
Perhaps it was a sign of the times or just a sign of important work still left undone. Yet another notable civil rights activist lived down the road from the Sanfords on 104th Avenue as a child.
Reverend Al Sharpton has earned national and even international recognition as a civil rights activist. He has drawn the nation's attention to the issues of racial violence and racism, and particularly to our criminal justice system.
In the 1980s, Al Sharpton was seen by many as a controversial figure due to his activism and public statements. He became a long-standing advocate for racial justice who has been known to lead protests and mobilize communities around issues of police brutality and racial discrimination. Despite the controversy, Sharpton's activism has had a long-lasting impact on the civil rights movement, and he continues to be a prominent figure in the fight for racial justice.
Issue or subject matter in the country, unlike in the 60s and even early 70s, we tend to try and brush the questions of race under the rug. And those that have the tenacity or audacity to raise the race question are often attacked and often accused of making trouble rather than solving problems for those in trouble. Fact of the matter is that racism is still alive and well in America. That does not mean there has not been some levels of progress. But if one sincerely believes in the progress that has been made since the 60s, one would then finish the task rather than say, we've made some progress, so let's stop there. If one were to watch a football game, you do not see the quarterback throw the ball, the receiver grab the ball and go 2 yards and still remain 40 yards from touchdown, and we say, okay, stop the game, we've made some progress.
Alfred Sharpton, chairman of National Youth Movement. We just buried a boy, and the only thing he did wrong was he was born on the wrong side of the tracks. He should be kept quiet. Al Sharpton, go home.
They will say that we are exasperating racial tensions, but the people know the truth.
Anytime you start shaking the root of this system, then you're going to have a discredit campaign.
Got to turn these stations upside down. Can't tell the story right, don't tell it at all.
Reverend Al Sharpton seemed to appear as if out of the air on a pulpit as the voice of victims of discrimination. He started out as a preacher at the very early age of 4.
I felt I could preach, and I felt this compulsion, they would say in the church, this calling. So it was natural to me to say, by that point, I want to preach, even though they laughed. To the point where when we moved to Hollis, in the basement of the house, my mother built me a little chapel. And I used to go in the basement and put on, by then I had my own little clergy.
Times have changed as Al Sharpton, the little isolated preacher boy from Hollis, is now surrounded by a whole host of new company.
So most of my friends in the neighborhood would be outside playing stickball or basketball. I'd be in the basement preaching. I remember when we had moved to Hollis, I went to PS 134. And I'd write on my homework page, Reverend Alfred at that time, Alfred Sharpton. And the teacher kept saying, "You can't write that, you're not a minister." I said, "Yes, I am." Bishop Washington came to the school to explain to the principal. That was probably my first protest, that I refused to let people limit who I was. When I got to be known and would be ridiculed by the media or cartoons, didn't bother me at all. It was like growing up in Brooklyn or in Queens. My father was an entrepreneur, made money. We moved to Hollis, and that was a black middle class neighborhood at that time. And he bought a new Cadillac every year. My parents broke up, and we had to move back to Brooklyn, but the side of Brooklyn I never knew. And we went from owning this corner house on 199th Street, 104th Avenue in Hollis, 10-room house, garage, basement, Cadillac in the driveway, to the subway now, no Cadillac, on welfare now, struggling to pay the rent. The whole world flipped upside down.
The circumstances under which he would leave the area shaped his life and made him an advocate for children in pain. In 1971, when he was just 16 years old, Al Sharpton founded his first civil rights organization, the National Youth Movement, to raise money for impoverished children, to turn the youth on to voting, and to fight drugs. The National Youth Movement was funded by Byard Rustin, who organized the famous march where Martin Luther King spoke of his dream.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivering his I Have a Dream speech. The sea of peaceful people, 250,000, black and white together. Say March on Washington, this is the snapshot history has saved from that August day in 1963. Now, look there, the man just behind Dr. King. He's Byard Rustin. Who, you say? Byard Rustin, the strategist who organized the march. A singular, transformative moment for the civil rights movement.
The first demand is that we have effective civil rights legislation, no compromise, no filibuster.
At the end of the march, he read a list of demands. But who remembers? Today, it's as if his name has been erased.
What do you say?
Al Sharpton was working in Shirley Chisholm's office and was greatly supported by James Brown, whom he would always refer to as his surrogate father. For Reverend Al Sharpton, Hollis was a place of stability and happiness in his life, a foundation that he could hold on to as he was being catapulted through life to eventually return to better days.
And you need to name which daughter it was. You ready?
All right.
Who, when they were little, poked Dad's stomach, calling him fat, which eventually started him on his weight loss journey.
Ashley walked up to me one day. I had on a tracksuit. So I used to wear tracksuits a lot. A lot of people don't understand when they always talking in the media about me with tracksuits. But I came in the era, that's how we dressed.
Run DMC, all right.
Spike Lee, Run DMC, Russell Simmons, all of us around the same age, and that's how we dressed. And a lot of the marches I led, we ended up getting arrested. Mm-hmm. Who gonna wear their best Sunday suit to jail? Right. So I keep the tracksuit on. So I'm getting dressed one morning, I got on the tracksuit, and Ashley comes in the room and punches me right in the belly. Dad, why are you so fat? Oh, no. And I seen all the cartoons and caricatures about me, but that was what hurt my feelings. My little daughter said that. I made my mom was gonna lose weight.
Sorry, Dad.
This quaint and historically rich neighborhood seems to hold a special magic that has attracted some outstanding residents, and for sure, it continues to do so even today. Hollis is simply an amazing place to live, and if you venture to look beyond the doors to discover who has lived in these old houses who currently live there today, I bet you'll be pleasantly surprised. Oh my, I didn't know that when I stopped next door to welcome a new neighbor, that I would come face to face with an amazing family that's lighting up the world with their outstanding talent and generosity. My next door neighbor turned out to be a premier concert pianist and her husband, an esteemed violinist. Okay, she didn't look like this around the neighborhood. Jeez. She was the young mother of sons Santi and Yadik, who along with her husband were doing more mundane things as they were in the process of getting adjusted to life in a new city. Norea became my piano teacher. I learned, but I would watch in awe as her toddler Yadik reached heights on the piano that I could only dream of. Norea would also play music for a neighbor's church, the Bethesda Missionary Baptist Church on Jamaica Avenue. Look at this church. Just look at this beautiful church. It always catches my eye as I pass by. Originally the first German Presbyterian Church of Jamaica. It was built in 1900 and it has some amazing stories associated with it. Norea's older son Santi is now a Harvard graduate, and Yadik would go on to be an international award-winning pianist. Yadik, son of Ecuadorian pianist Norea Muekai and Russian violinist Irakli Panko, has won competitions such as the New York Future Artists, the Bradshaw and Buono International Piano Competition, and competitions at the Kaufman Center, where you can see him performing right now at age 7 in the center's Merkin Concert Hall. Yarik started playing the piano at age 2 when he could barely reach the keys. By age 5, when he was preparing to play professionally, he expressed a dream to play at Carnegie Hall. Yarik's dream would come true when at age 7 he played in Zanko Hall, making him the first male pianist from Ecuador to solo at Carnegie Hall at age 7. Norea has also done her country proud, as she was the first Ecuadorian ever to solo as a pianist at Carnegie Hall. And she has traveled the world playing at some of the most prominent halls in Europe, Asia, South America, and the United States. As a youth, she also showed prodigy and is celebrated for being an international chess champion, really, the first Ecuadorian woman to acquire an official ranking from the International Chess Federation. Seems her beloved father told her a story about a king, a queen, and a battle, and handed her a chess set when she was only 3 years old. And by age 11, when she experienced her first international win at the Bolivian Championships. She had already won numerous championships at the youth level. Norea was 7 times undefeated champion of Ecuador. At age 14, she bested the world top chess player and was placed among the 4 best female chess players in the world. I think her country celebrates her wisely. Today, as Dr. Norea Muekai, educator, she brings her 2 talents, her 2 loves, chess and piano, together, as she teaches using a method she developed in which she integrates chess and music skills to enhance precision, creativity, and expression. You can hear Norea performing her piece, Cuatro Voces, which she has dedicated to her son Santi. The look and feel of Hollis continue to attract people to this one-of-a-kind community, no doubt because of its innate beauty and flattering old town appeal that has lived on for many generations, that has remained a constant, although people will come and go. I know what it is. Hollis makes you feel like you've stepped back in time. Look at these unique homes. They strengthen our local identity, foster a feeling of satisfaction, and inspire a willingness to contribute to the neighborhood's well-being and improvement, because this community is so very attractive and very livable. Even residents who have long moved away can look on with a strong sense of belonging and unwavering pride in Hollis's distinctively rich heritage. I know there are a lot of folks out there who think that Hollis is an amazing place to grow up, an amazing place to be. I'm always excited to learn more about the cool history of this place. Don't you ever wonder who has lived in your house? I mean, I do. And it's been fun researching the homes of Hollis. Being a relative newcomer, only here since about 98, I'm so grateful for the groups of waybacks who share online. Shout out to Darryl for bringing waybacks together and for all the cool info he shares. Thank you, kind sir. I have to say, though, the community would really benefit from a physical place to store all these milestones and memories before they're lost to us forever. The people and landscape of Hollis continue to evolve. As examples, the repurposing of 190-02 Jamaica Avenue from bank to medical center. A renewed opportunity for a home at 88-40 192nd Street, now a religious institution that promotes Indian music and culture to increase awareness of these new vibrant additions to the Hollis community. As the religious landscape becomes more diverse in Hollis, there is transformation. However, the indiscriminate destruction of our older structures is alarming, as it signals potential loss of what makes Hollis Hollis, its essence, foundation, and history. Being homogenized, Hollis is at risk of losing its rich and historic character. Here you can see a treasure from Hollis's past, a beautiful, almost 100-year-old colonial revival house holding fast as a multi-level building overshadows it. But sadly, day by day, the beautiful, historic homes that give Hollis its identity and special character are being callously destroyed by money and power-hungry developers. Of the estimated 863,975 households in Queens, New York, there are only about 20 houses of the caliber of the Ketcham house, and only one exists on an oversized property. And that one-of-a-kind house has now been targeted by developers for demolition. Just imagine. Against the outcry of the community.
We cannot allow them to take that house and destroy that landmark. But not in that place. Not right there. So cannot do it. Can't. I want to fight for it. So we got to get some picket signs.
The Ketcham family is an old Long Island family who were prominent landowners in towns like Southold and Huntington, dating back to the 1600s. The first Ketcham ancestors arrived from England and settled on Long Island in the early colonial period. Today, members of the Ketcham family also protest with a resounding no to the destruction of one of the last remaining monuments to their family heritage.
We're in a neighborhood called Hollis. We're here to show you a historical house that dates to 1849. We're going to tell you a little bit more about this house because it actually has a very interesting history too. And no one better to do it than Jason Antos, the president of the Queens Historical House, and a man who has written 7 books on the history of Queens.
And just very quickly, we're taking a look at the beautiful Ketcham house, 1848, 1849. All right, so this is a prime example of a pre-Civil War era home. It's one of the only examples of a pre-Civil War era homestead anywhere in this area. Just take a look at it. I mean, it's really incredible. And yeah, it's something that's been somewhat overlooked by time, and is a survivor, and it's still here with us today. And hopefully we can preserve it. It's in very good shape, and we can preserve it for future generations.
Endorsed by the Queens Historical Society, the Queens Tourism Council, and the Architectural Guide to New York City, as being a remarkable throwback to the area's 19th century roots and one of the most architecturally significant structures in the area, the Ketcham House acts as a living chronicle of the birth and development of this historically rich town called Hollis, that has been made more appealing through the ages by its fierce community pride.
Please let us be intentional about building community.
Our older historic structures is what gives Hollis its unique character and heritage. They should be preserved.
So much about these last several years has been about trying to make people point their fingers at each other, to have Americans point their fingers at each other, to try and make people feel alone or feel small. But let us do the work of building up community.
We have an opportunity to strengthen the community by safeguarding all their amazing stories in a special place where people can always go to rediscover and learn and remember. Learning about your local history often inspires a sense of belonging and pride that builds a more unified and cohesive community. What better place than a 200-year-old building on an oversized park-like property that was here before the establishment of the railroad depot that sparked the boom in development in Hollis and has seen it all. For decades, the Ketcham House has been a gathering place for residents. There was a time when neighbors were invited to drop in every Thursday evening for tea, coffee, and a meet and greet. And there have been many community games nights hosted there. The oldest home in the area, the Ketcham House, has been the cornerstone of Hollis, standing proudly as a sentry guarding the past for just about 200 years. It is filled with items from antiquity, preserved to give the youth of today and tomorrow an opportunity to have hands-on experience with devices from the past. I can see it as a vibrant museum dedicated to preserving our community's rich history, where you can find images and the documents that tell the stories of Hollis's past. Not just a museum for looking, the Ketcham House can continue to provide a space for the community to connect. There was the annual Family Day, where residents joined with friends for a day of fun to relax and celebrate each other's heritage. Always a place for learning. Community groups share their culture there. It's a great space for community get-togethers, meetings, and celebrations. What do you think? You know, your voice does matter. Can we afford to lose such an amazing and irreplaceable gateway to the past? And one of the coolest things is that the New York City Landmark Preservation Commission has their eye on the property too. The Ketcham House is a potential candidate for landmarking. If you believe in the preservation of Hollis's historic treasures, contact the Landmark Commission and your local representatives and let them know the Ketcham House should be landmarked and preserved for future generations. You know, the Ketcham House sits on a large property that could be used as parkland by the community. Other than the Gladys Warren Triangle, which is a small bare strip of land without lighting or facilities, there really are no community green spaces in Hollis at all. Residents need a place to enjoy time together. I mean, this is so essential for the building of a cohesive community. The Ketcham House would be an amazing resource to help residents build pride along with knowledge of their community. It's a place where people can go to research the past and dive into the rich tapestry of the heritage shared by everyone in the community. This is Alvin. He has lived in Hollis since he was a teen. Retired now after a long career as a bus driver, He's a friendly walking encyclopedia with loads of information about Hollis. But he had questions about his past. Alvin had only seen his father once or twice and knew very little about him. He was curious to know more. Through the Ketcham house, he was able to trace his father and heritage back to another country, learned about his father's military activities, his place of death and burial, and more. He was able to uncover not only who his relations are, but quite a lot about their day-to-day existence. The Ketcham House has the possibility of becoming a family resource center.
If you have never been there, you are missing out on a super resource. Family Search International began microfilming vital records and other records of importance around the world. They have recorded records in more than 100 languages in over 200 countries. However, their agreements with the places where they microfilm the records may make it so that they can't show that to the public in general and make it so that they can only show it at their family history centers. There's other resources in these family history libraries. Their computers have a lot of programs on them that you would have to pay for in other places or that you simply couldn't access from home.
Family history centers offer the ability to use costly programs like Ancestry, Find My Past or My Heritage, and a whole lot more for free. And as the closest center is in Flushing, it would be a fabulous experience to have one right here in our neighborhood. To paraphrase the Honorable Marcus Garvey, look him up, really, he's an important benefactor to our life here on planet Earth. A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Think about it. And I would venture to say that the same is true of community. Sorry, but that's all for now, folks. This is where part 1 ends. But please stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss what is coming in the next day or two. There is so much more to cover, and we can do that together. Like, who exactly is Gladys Warren, huh? And why, oh why, is this plaza named for her? Sorry, I think about those things sometimes. And what's really behind the City of Yes, huh? What's behind the City of Yes? Why keep building when there is 30 times the size of the Empire State Building of empty, unused office space available right now in Manhattan? That's a lot. Why not focus on turning that into affordable housing? With so much more to explore, like the unique connection between the color purple and Hollis. Did you know about that one? I'll keep coming back. Hope you'll join me and help me keep this channel going. Come on now, like and share with your community, your family and friends, so that they too can enjoy and be a part of all this discovery. Oh, and if you subscribe, you'll be notified of upcoming videos. And that said, I really would love to hear what you think about this video. Have you had similar experiences and concerns? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. Oh my, do you hear these sweet birds? Those are wild parrots that used to frequent this area, feeding on the trees every single day. Now you don't see them so much because of overdevelopment. They came back this one day and wow, isn't it amazing? Well, thanks for watching all, and thank you so much for being a friend and for visiting Marie at the Ketcham House. Till next time.
Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend.